Hey there, YouTubers and friends. I wanted to do a video real quick about what it cost us to go on a trip. And we have a Rockwood Mini-Lite 2109S. It's 21 foot, 9 inches, and about 4,200 pounds dry weight, probably about 5,500 full with water and everything else that we carry. And then I have a Titan V8, Nissan Titan V8 Pro 4X truck, and that's a gas truck. Now, normally I get about, without the camper hooked up, probably between 22 miles to the gallon, which isn't bad for that big of a truck. When I'm hooked up, doesn't matter what I do, the average always seems to come out just about like everybody else, about 10 miles to the gallon, somewhere in there. So we've gotten used to that. So as far as costs go, when we go on a trip, we've been on 3, and what I will do is I summarize each trip. When we get done, I'll go ahead and write in all the costs for everything that we do, and I put them into, as we go on each day, we'll take all the receipts. 95% of everything we do is with a credit card, and we simply have a check register, and the check register we'll get an extra one at the bank. This is for our trips in 2016. We'll write in every receipt that we do at night or the next day, maybe 2 or 3 days in a row, and I'll categorize all of those. So when I get home, I'll go ahead and put them into a spreadsheet, and then I'll do a total for the trip. We have a total for all the credit card charges, so that should agree with the register or with our Visa statement or whatever we use at that time. And we'll have everything there. So it's kind of a checklist to make sure we didn't miss anything as well. Of course, we cross-foot all of those. Now, we'll take some cash, so I always put in things of any major consequence that we do in here, you know, $1 for a pop or something like that. I'm not going to worry about that, but that way we can keep track of things. So as you may have seen on that, if you paused it to look at the categories, what I'll have is usually our 2 biggest expenses at the top: gas, RV parks, and surprisingly the other one is eating out. This seems to be one that's kind of high. We've cut back on that quite a bit though. So I'll have, you can break it down any way you want, but I like to keep track of these types of totals so that I know in the major areas at least what I'm spending. So as you may have seen, now on our first trip of any length was 7 days, and that was to Carlsbad Cavern from Aurora, Colorado, and that was 1,800 miles, and that was 7 days long. Now we spent at least 2 days in Santa Rosa, New Mexico at a, I think it was a Pilot or a Love's, I think it was Love's truck stop. And it was more out of convenience than anything. We just really did not make hardly any reservations on the entire trip. So for that one. And that worked out well, so we weren't tied down. And we probably could have found some free campsites, but at that time, that was in November last year, just after we got our, shortly after we got our camper a month earlier in October. So I like to keep track of the things that we spend it on, so I know what I'm doing, how well I'm doing. So grocery, obvious, foods that we prepare and make in our own trailer. Eating out, kept track of that. We kept that at a more of a minimum on this last trip, substantially. I think we ate out on our trip to a 21-day trip to Arizona and came back through. That was we spent $247 on that one. And on this last 36-day trip, we took to up as far as Voyageurs National Park in Minnesota. That one, that whole trip was $398, so for 36 days. So quite a bit more. So we were a little more careful, but we like to eat out occasionally. But I do cook. We make our own breakfasts for sure, and oftentimes lunch sandwiches, leftovers from the night before, and then I'll make supper in the camper as well. So attractions and entrance fees, that would be like state park entrance fees. If we went to a museum and there's a charge, I kept track of those things. The RV parks themselves were anything that where we paid to stay overnight. That would include national parks, state forests, and then normal campgrounds. Pardon me. So we could whittle those down quite a bit, and we hope to in the future by staying at more free sites, places that don't have a charge at all, and we know we're not going to need to fill up with water or dump anything like that for 3 or 4 days easily. We can go in ours. The site freecampsites.net, I've used that one to find some locations, but it also behooves you to look on Google Maps. If you'll go to Google Maps and zoom in on a city, you'll see places, parks, campgrounds that also are free and are not on the free site, campsites.net. I suppose I could add them, but it's more work than I need to do. Someone else will do it, I guess. Now, Driving and Vibin, or is it Vibin and Drivin'? No, it's Driving and Vibin. I'm pretty sure their channel on YouTube, shout out to them, because they really do a good job of finding sites, and I've just started following them recently, and they found some very good places up in Wyoming, and they're working their way up north. So I'm really excited about following them because they find some really great sites. Good job, guys. So that's an area where I'd like to look at cutting down on some of the costs. The drinks you may have seen on there, that's for my beer and for pop, or if we get some vodka or something like that, relaxing stuff. I like to keep track of that separate just because it's not considered food. I would think about it. The trailer and truck equipment line on here is simply just that. If it's anything that I buy for the trailer and upgrade, I mean even a broom, a cord, things like that on the road, or for the truck, whatever it might be, bungees or something, I go ahead and keep track of that because, as well as keeping track of it on there, I also carry around a booklet with me that I have every camper expense I've incurred since I bought this truck and camper. So I wanted to know just what this camper was really going to cost. So not only was the book price or sale price of just the outright camper in there, just to let you know, the bottom line at this point is $2,700 and, can you see that? $2,780. And that is literally virtually everything that I bought. And that includes solar, the solar panels that I got, which will return themselves. The cost of those easily, extra battery or the major things, a generator. And so I like to keep track of all those things. And of course, yes, I kept every receipt I got. So it's just me. It's just me. One day I'll throw them away. So anything that goes towards the trailer, I'll go ahead and keep track of. In fact, one month you may have noticed it if you saw the sheet very closely or paused it. On our Carlsbad Cavern trip, we spent $115 on the trailer and travel. And what that was is this was our first long trip out on it. We found out that the mattress in that thing was like a rock. And so we stopped at a Walmart and bought a 3-inch foam pad to put under it. We have a couple of blankets under it still, and a foam top, the mattress pad topper. and that thing is so comfortable now. It's just awesome. Love it. But the mattress that came with it, they said, "Ooh, this is great. You're going to love it." No. It killed us about the second night out on the trip. We said, can't do this. So I like to keep track of those things too, so I know what I spent. And it goes towards part of the trip. You're going to have some expenses. Even gasoline for the generator, I keep track of in here under trailer and truck equipment when I'm on the road. So I don't think we've used 1.5 gallons of gas yet, though. The personal items, those are just things that we need. It might be a gift for someone, a lot of gifts. So that's really what that stuff is. And toothpaste, toothbrushes, things, whatever. Yeah, you know what I mean. I think I covered everything. Personal, yeah. So there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 items in there. So it's pretty easy to lump these into. You could go crazy. You could add a lot more things, much more detail if you wanted. Break out the attractions and entrance fees. But overall, what this ended up being is our first 7-day trip out, even with 2 nights boondocking, came to $106 a day for the average for the trip. And then the second trip, which was Arizona, which was a 21-day trip, that was 3,370 miles. That was $101.23 per day with all of those expenses caught. And then our last trip to Minnesota and back, that was 36 days and 4,816 miles, and that was $107.47. And we hit a few more expensive campgrounds. The further up north you got into Minnesota, it seemed in Door County, north of Green Bay, fabulous, but not real cheap. I mean, 45, 50 some odd dollars a day for camping, whereas it seems like the average seemed to be around 30 something. So maybe that gives you a little bit of an idea of what it costs per day if you want to go trailer, travel, camping, and you could probably keep it under that amount easily, or you may go over that amount the more you stay at RV parks and the more expensive ones. So hopefully that helped you out a little bit, and that information will be of benefit to you in the future. And when you're making your plans, maybe you can do better than I did. And if you did, that's super. Go for it, because then you have a little bit more time you can spend doing other things. Thank you very much. You all have a great day.